Hello. This is the first part of the Go for Glass paper postmortem for an integrated marketing campaign event. Specifically, this is the March On paper. This is the first postmortem that we're doing, so this is going to be split up into a couple different parts. Altogether, the playlist should end up about an hour long, maybe a little bit less. And let's get started because I'm running out of time. Just so you know the order, we'll be going over the description and the target market together in one video. Objectives and metric will get their own. Activities and schedule may actually end up covering closer to 2, maybe even 3 videos. The budget gets its own, and then executive summary and soft skills will be in one video. Starting with the description, for postmortems, we're going to start with the positives, move into the negatives, and then I'll talk about what score this paper actually received versus the score that I would give it, and then summarize what went well, what missed the mark, and what to avoid next time. Starting with that positive, there's precise, detailed language present in this description that give the judge a sense of the foundational information they need to know in order to better understand the overall project. By the way, if you hear noise in the background, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on at the moment outside. Additionally, this description uses a graphic in order to give more context data that helps to build the understanding of the campaign. More specifically, while it's not labeled and maybe it should be, this SWOT goes over the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of why this campaign would be beneficial to the company. Some negatives, however, there's a lot of text overwhelming this page, and a pestle may have actually been a better fit, looking at the environmental and external factors influencing a national campaign is typically a stronger way to go. Additionally, some of the language in here could have been clarified, and there's a weak hook at the beginning. A transcribed version of this recording should be released within a week or so, and additionally, we'll also have a rubric and much more detailed analysis of the actual paper posted that you can review. Overall score, this paper received a 6 out of 6 for description. I'd give it a 5 out of 6. There's a really strong use of detail in language. However, the paragraphs were too large and they become overwhelmingly. Additionally, this paper did not properly introduce the value of the event. What are the long-term and short-term benefits? You don't have to necessarily give a quantifiable metric here, but you do need to say something like, this campaign will allow for long-term increase of customer loyalty, or this will lead to increased sales, etc., etc. This will show up in your objectives later on, the next video. But beginning to touch on that now helps with getting the objective point for reference throughout the campaign paper. Moving into our target market, the actual format for this paper is very easily understood, and it has high quality traits in the bullets. What do we mean by that? You'll notice that all of these bullets take up one line and that they are less than or equal to 5 words. What this basically means is that it becomes extremely easy for the judge to skim. On something like this, when you do not have a ton of time for your judge to read through, you want to make things as accessible as possible for them. Additionally, you may have a judge with dyslexia, or they might have some difficulty reading. English may not be their first language. Making things accessible, clear, and jargonless allows for an overall increase in points and the perception of professionalism. Some negatives about this target market: I do feel like a behavioral segmentation should have been included. However, there is a paragraph that you'll see in a second which explains the lack of space for that. I also feel like the geographics are underdeveloped. I would have added maybe 1 or 2 more bullet points if I had the time to go back and review this, but for the most part, having an easily understood table format such as this is strong. I did want to point out how the psychographics especially follows the 3-2 format. In that, we mean that 3 of these focus on a positive association, 1 of them focuses on a negative association, and then 1 of them focuses on a mission association. So it could be a 3-1-1, but 3-2 is what I've heard it as. Starting with that positive association. This was the 3-2 format mostly applies to the primary market. You can apply it to secondary. But starting with the 3, they're active in their community. That's how we're reaching them with the company. The second one is talking about a little bit more of something statistics-based or talking about relating to your activities. This campaign uses a lot of social media, so having a statistic that they spend 4 hours or more a day on social media allows for more impact to be made. Additionally, we're seeking green brands and products. That's a positive association. The customer is going to view this campaign in a better light, knowing that the campaign is focused around a green brand. Then we're going to have our first of the 1. This is talking about that mission, that value. Generally speaking, you want your primary and your secondary market to have diametrically different values that they bring to this campaign, but that should both be supported in your campaign's messaging, branding, and overall vibe, for lack of better words. This primary market values the integrity of a company and the environment. For a campaign focused on sustainability and corporate accountability, that's really good to include. The secondary market is more concerned about durability and price, but that is actually talked about when you look through the paper. And then finally, having that sort of negative or even indifferent association. The secondary market might be a nostalgic customer that could be seen as a positive. It can also be an indifferent thing. And the primary market has to be a negative association. They do not support fast fashion. That really shows why they will connect with this campaign on a deeper note, and it also shows that they will be more connected to the transparency angle of this particular campaign. So for the second part of the target market, starting with those highlights, the supportive statistics here are strong. English is a left to right, up down language, and there's this fun little psychological phenomena where we remember things that are at the beginning and at the end the best. To play into that left to right, you typically want to have your statistics follow from least impressive to most impressive. And then if you can have statistics that also go into the whole, they are the most supportive, the ones at the beginning and the ones at the end, that also helps. The wording of these is a little bit weird, and I would probably go back and tweak it a little bit. But as another positive, this is an interesting paragraph. It may have been completely unnecessary, but it could have just been cut down to talk about why Americans are more likely to react to a high-stakes short-term campaign. My reasoning behind creating this part when I did make it is that March On is for the Dr. Martens company, which is based in the UK, which is not America. And if we're doing a national American campaign, we probably want to delineate that. However, I never had any judges ask questions about it, so I think it's unnecessary. I did put a lot of effort and research into this part, but it might have been for nothing, and it just kind of was a waste of space. And so looking at some of those interesting word choices here that do sort of help, and then there's just weird statistic phrasing. The actual score for this piece was a 6 out of 6. I'll give it a 6 out of 6 as well, because I think that there is a lot of attention that is obvious within this section. However, I do think that that paragraph did not add enough value. I never had a judge ask me about it, and as a result, while that could just be a bias thinking that, oh, this isn't a problem because the paragraph has resolved the problem, I just think that it was a waste of space. I could have even cut half of it out and just focused on the Americans, not comparing it to the British. So adding in that analysis for analysis' sake, I see a lot of papers do that. It leads to backlogs, it leads to a judge getting overwhelmed. You want your paper to be as easily referenceable as possible. For an IMC, you only have so many pages, but this especially is important for those 20 pagers. Your judge has, I think I've heard it's like a week to review closer to 30 papers, though that might be on the high end of things, especially at ICDC. You want to make it as easy and as stand out for them as possible. And with that, that would be the target market and the descriptions. So yeah, we will I will be posting the next video in just 10 minutes or so.